to everyone who is here today. Thank you to all the dignitaries, all the law enforcement, the family members, and the friends of Detective Tony Valentine. We are all here today to honor his sacrifice that he made on December 1st of 2021, and to dedicate this shelter here and this bench right over here to Detective Valentine. At this point, I want to introduce Chief Gregory with St. Louis County Police.
Good morning. You know, it was a year ago today that I was sitting in my office having a meeting with our deputy chief about some department issues. Lieutenant Colonel Cox stepped in and told us that there had been a vehicle accident involving some of our police officers. And that's information that I get on a regular basis of that type. I asked him what was the condition of our officers, what were the conditions of any of the other people involved in the accident. He was still getting information, and he told me that he would get back to me. When he came back to me, he told me that the officers involved in the accident were Detective Antonio Valentine and Detective Ryan Henson, and that they were on their way to the hospital, and that Detective Valentine was not doing really well after the injuries. With all that information, I did all that I could not to keep certain things from my mind in reference to the accident and the possible injuries. When I arrived at the hospital, I stepped in the trauma room along with Sergeant Valentine, the uncle of Tony, and as the medics worked to survive Tony. Tony succumbed to his injuries on December 1st, 2021. On that day, this agency lost an honorable officer. Shep, Linnell, Columbus, and others lost a great friend. The siblings lost a loving brother. Sergeant Valentine lost a nephew who idolized him. And most of all, anybody, Alicia, Tony, Jalen, and Victoria lost a loving father who idolized and loved his children. My heart and my deepest condolences continue to be extended to the Detective Valentine family, along with condolences from our agency and from our police commissioners. Thank you for your strength, for giving us such a man for our department. To work in this profession, it takes honor, heart, dedication, and an unimaginable level of mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical strength to take on what we and Tony Valentine did every day. It takes a level of humility, moral-like qualities to self-sacrifice for the everyday citizens. And that is exactly what Detective Valentine did. Today we're here to honor Tony by remembering his legacy. His legacy will be on display at this pavilion that is named after him and is located in the Bell Fountain Park. Also located at the Detective Antonio Valentine Pavilion is that bench dedicated to Tony with words from his family on the nameplate. Our agency would like to thank Councilwoman Shalonda Webb and her working committee who initiated this remembrance dedicated to Detective Valentine. We'd also like to thank the St. Louis County Park Department for their part in this dedication. And thanks also goes out to the St. Louis Police Foundation for their contribution to this dedication. To all of you officers out there, continue to carry Tony with your badge and within your heart. This is a reminder that Detective Antonio Valentine will never be forgotten. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Councilwoman Shalonda Webb.
Good morning, everyone. So first, I want to thank the family for coming and being with us so they can witness how we will honor their brother, their loved one. For us, it's a friend. Maybe we knew them, but this is their relative. And so as I was sharing with his sister, you don't have to make nobody else comfortable. If you want to shed a tear, shed a tear. And then as I was comforting her, then my tears began to flow. I just want to make sure everyone knows how important you are to this community. And Detective Valentine showed that time and time again how he cared for this community, his family, his loved ones, and his friends. I learned, because I did not know him personally, but I learned how his character was maybe a minimal words, but great action and wonderful leadership. And the evidence stands before me and behind me of all those who are here to show respect and to celebrate him. I thank Chief Gregory and his partnership. I thank the County Executive and his partnership, Chief Shanette Hall, and those officers who brought this to my attention and even planted the seed that this officer deserved to be honored, like all of them. But he was so important to our community. I thank the Parks Department, Mr. Ott and his team, for bringing this together, for making sure that we were able to secure the bench to honor Detective Valentine, and then the renaming of the pavilion. So yes, this is a day of celebration, a day of honor of Detective Valentine. And we want to do that in only the way that St. Louis County can, to show that great respect and reverence for one of our fallen soldiers. Thank you so much for being here. I extend celebratory and honoring, on behalf of Chairwoman Days, who could not be here, in her absence, I extend her respect and honoring of Detective Valentine and all of the council members of St. Louis County. You matter to us. You help us serve our community, and we thank each and every one of you. Thank you. At this time, County Executive Sion Page.
Thank you, Councilwoman Webb. Over the past year, I've listened to the tributes to Detective Antonio Valentine, loving father, brother, son, veteran, a quiet leader, a man who proudly served his country and his community. Someone who we're all proud of his dedication, who believed that public service was the highest honor and the greatest way to give back to your community and to make a difference. And on the anniversary of his line of duty death, we come to honor him for his service, to have his name placed on this park shelter, to memorialize all of the good that he brought us. Thank you to the Parks Department, to the Police Department, and everyone who made this possible. Councilwoman Shalonda Webb for leading this effort. And to his family, to his friends, to his colleagues, know that our heart is with you. Loss never leaves us, but thankfully, neither does the love that he left for all of you. Where's your guys?
Good morning. On behalf of the Board of Police Commissioners and everyone else who's been here, thank you very much for being here to celebrate Sunshiny Day. I'm sure it's benefiting exactly what we're here to do. Regrettably, I did not know Officer Antonio Valentine, or regrettably, I did not know the man, Tony. Thankfully, many, if not most of you did. Listening to your stories about him, hearing of your personal and professional respect for him, seeing the joy in your faces when you talk about him, knowing that you laughed and cried with him, hearing how he made each of you a better person, gives those of us who did not know him a better feel for who this remarkable man was. The respect you pay him now, with your stories about him and of him, the tears you shed and continue to shed for him, the gratitude you show him for the many roles he played in your lives: husband, father, dad, nephew, partner, officer, friend, coach, mentor, colleague, teammate, and many, many more. The way he impacted your lives so personally is a true testament to who this man was. Our community is a far better place because he was part of our lives. He was many things. Certainly, he was a protector with his service in the U.S. military and his commitment to the St. Louis community with his service through your St. Louis Police Department. Our remembrance of him through the dedication of the shelter and of the bench, his memorial shelter, a bench to him, is a very good first step in not only acknowledging and recognizing him for who he was and for what he did for many of us, it is also a way to ensure future generations of St. Louisans continue to remember him and be protected by him. To all those who made this shelter possible, thank you all very, very much. It is a deep and sincere thank you for that. A man of his character deserves such a dedication and a tribute to all that he was and believed in. We are so grateful to him. Through this shelter, he continues to protect all of us. Thank you, Officer Valentine. Thank you, Tony, for being part of our lives forever. And with that, I will turn it over to Sergeant Love.
Good morning. I want to thank everyone for the continued support coming out to show their appreciation for Antonio Valentine. I want to thank everyone involved with this dedication and getting this organized. I know there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people involved, and truly am grateful for y'all bringing things together for the Antonio Valentine's name forever remembered. A year ago today, we paid the ultimate sacrifice. He was killed in the line of duty, which is still an unreal, very tough realization I think we all face and have to go with. But when this date came, it brought me back to in DC during police week. A couple of department members and I were able to attend to DC. Also, I honor V. I can remember a time I was sitting at dinner and I was talking to a sister, Nia. And Nia hit me with something that was so real, but so truthful. She said, "Love, y'all lost a brother, a coworker, a friend. We lost our foundation. We lost my brother. And the kids lost their father." Which was such a gut punch, because sometimes we can get selfish and forget that this family has paid the ultimate sacrifice and lost something that was so valuable. And I appreciate it. Now, of course, if y'all know Nia, I understand it was a little bit more colorful words than I just presented it. But I truly understand and respect the Valentine realness, which brings me to the legacy of V. I had the opportunity to sit and talk with Jalen, his oldest son. If you ever get the opportunity to sit and talk with him, his mannerisms, his hand gestures, his way, his facial expressions, it's just like his dad. His dad was so smooth, monotone, relaxing and talk. And it was so dope to sit down and talk to him because you see that Valentine imprint in him. Then you have little Tony, a fireball, extremely blessed with talent. You see that Valentine gene in him. And then you have Victoria. I promise this little girl has been here before. But the ability she has to write in the room, to show that everything's going to be okay, is a definite representation of what her dad did the times we worked together. And that brings me to Alicia. Alicia. The fire you have, the heart you display, your ability to stand tall is truly an example of what your dad stood for. I wish I can tell you that this is going to get easier. I wish I can say when this hurt will go away. But I promise you, along with the St. Louis County family and myself, we will forever be there to help guide you through this. Lastly, V, you are truly missed. But the time I'm able to see and spend with your kids, I'm truly able to understand and see that your legacy is truly in good hands. And again, I thank you all, the St. Louis County family. Please continue to be safe. The St. Louis County Drug Unit, I understand y'all mourning. I wish y'all the best. With that time, I'd like to introduce Tony's sister, Antonio Valentine.
Please be patient with me. Dedication, the quality of being dedicated or committed to a task or purpose. Antonio Antoine Valentine Sr. was the eldest of 8 children, so instinctively, he was our alpha. The beginning of love, structure, compassion, family, and selflessness. My brother was a man of few words, but never to be underestimated. When he talked, you listened. The words that he spoke were very powerful and full of meaning. Antonio always poured more into others than he had for himself. He was very family oriented and was always our protector. As children, I can reflect upon times we had several conversations of growing up and offering our younger siblings a better quality of life than we had for ourselves. Antonio always had a plan for better. Antonio taught me so much. He showed me that in life, you may not always get the results you quest for, but you have to be the change you want to see. When no one's looking, what will you do? Antonio was the voice of the voiceless. He stood up for what's right. He never yielded or compromised his morals or values. I find myself continuing to ask God why. Although I may never know the answer to the question, I'm a firm believer that God makes no mistakes. When my brother left this earth on the same day in 2021, it was then my life changed forever. Three years separated our life's timeline growing up. I went wherever Antonio went. I did whatever Antonio did. I recall in high school, his great alma mater, Beaumont, as a freshman trying out for the wrestling team. Why? Because my brother wrestled. That was short-lived. Because he told me I couldn't. So without questioning, I didn't. Being a girl, I wanted to be just like my big brother. I admire him so much. Antonio was so loved and cherished by many. In my mind, he could do anything. So today, I say to you, brother, it's not goodbye, but I'll see you later. Thank you.
Well, this is the part where she would introduce Uncle Scott. But But I want to tell a story. I'm Uncle Scott Valentine. I've been in law enforcement for 25 years, and I always watched over Antonio. We traded tips and information, but I would always tell him, there's only one thing that you have that nobody can take from you, and that's your name. And as I look at this placard here with the name that my mother gave to us, it's come to reality. When I would be on the street and when I was patrolling, I would ask a character on the street, "Who are you?" Not what's your name, but who are you? That would throw them for a loop, because the first thing they would want to do is tell me their name. That's not the question that I'm asking. I'm asking, who are you? And that shows the importance of what a name means to a person, because they would always start by telling me what their name was. And I would correct them and say, "I'm not asking you your name, I'm asking who are you?" And that shows that whether you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth or a plastic fork, the name is the one thing that you have that can't be taken away. It doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are, that name will be with you through eternity. I used to tell Antonio, when somebody walks through a cemetery, they'll look at that headstone and they'll see that name and they'll say, "Who was that person? Where did they come from?" And that's all you have. This name, Valentine, is the name that my mother gave to us. It's from a love story for my mother. She was married in 1954. My mom married in 1954, before she had any of us. She married a World War II veteran by the name of Hadley Valentine. She loved him so much that she said, "I'll never marry again." When she had children, she loved them so much that it didn't matter what our father's name was. We got his name. We're all Valentines. That meant a lot to my mother, and today as I stand here and I look at this placard with my nephew's name on it and the name Valentine that my mother gave to us, I couldn't be more proud of what she did for us. We come from humble beginnings, but the name that she gave to us, as I would tell Antonio, it has value. Your value increases, or you can lose value in that name. It's all on how you play it. Antonio played it up. That name took him around the world as a soldier in the United States Army and the United States Air Force. Hang on a second. I got the Ronnies here. Sorry. But he took our name around the world as a soldier. He brought it back to St. Louis. And he played it up again as a detective with St. Louis County PD Drug Enforcement Unit. He made good of what my mother gave to us. He made good of the man that he would become. He made good of that student that my niece just spoke of at Beaumont High School. And by the way, we're all Blue Jackets. I couldn't be more proud of my nephew. He's a quiet person. That's a trait that we share. We're private. But don't get us started. Don't try to treat somebody bad in front of us. Because we tend to favor the weak. So I'm not going to take up a lot more time. I just want to thank and acknowledge Antonio's colleagues and co-workers and friends who pushed to have a permanent physical memorial for Antonio. And by the way, I've never called him Antonio in 42 years of life. I called him by his middle name, Antoine, and all of his family. At least aunts and uncles called him Antoine. But again, I want to thank the family, his co-workers, his colleagues, his friends who pushed to have this memorial that bears his name. The Parks Department that put the property together that bears his name, the bench. Thank you all for coming out to acknowledge who my nephew was. Thank you for being his friend. Thank you for being his co-worker. Thank you for bringing him back to me on his last day. I got to be with him. I got to be with him to let him know before he checked out that family was there, that he wouldn't die among strangers. And I hope he knew that. And with that, again, thank you all for coming out and acknowledging who our Antoine was. That wraps it up for me. So, according to the plan, pipes and drums.
Thank you all for coming today. We're all excused.